Welcome to today's show. As always, we're powered by CLNS Media, and today's show is brought to you by Audible. Go to audible.com/Lakers Nation for a fantastic deal on audiobooks. Also by NatureBox. Go to naturebox.com/Lakers for some absolutely tasty snacks. And Casper. Go to casper.com/Lonzo and the number 2 for a wonderful mattress that I am enjoying currently. Today's show is going to be all about cap space. We're going to be talking about the Lakers' future and their efforts to land 2 max superstars next summer. So I have brought in salary cap expert Keith Smith of Real GM. Keith, thanks so much for joining the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So far this summer has been pretty good for the Lakers. I mean, for the first time in a while, it feels like things are moving in a positive direction. And they didn't have any real home run moves or anything like that. They're certainly not contending for a championship, but it feels like things are starting to progress a little bit with them. What was your general take on what they did this year?
Yeah, it's hard to disagree with what you just stated. They starting out with the trade they made, it was once everything had lined up, I think all knew they were going to draft Lonzo Ball. That had, if you talked to his dad, that had been preordained, 19 years ago or however old he is, right? But it's, but once the picks fell the way they did, I think we all knew that's how that was going to go. And at that point, you weren't going to have both him and D'Angelo Russell. And I think they made a good move where they didn't take on any long-term salary. I think Brook Lopez will help quite a bit this year. I always say one of the best things you can do with a rookie point guard, give him guys to pass to. Help it make that transition easier for him. Lopez is that guy. He became a three-point machine out of nowhere last year and really added that to his game. And then I really liked the other draft picks, Kyle Kuzma especially. He had a fantastic summer league. I know you were out in Las Vegas too. Right. And, he just tore it up. And then Josh Hart, Thomas Bryant, I think they need a little more work, but again, solid picks. And then rounding it out with the Kentavious Caldwell-Pope signing, which I loved. I as the offseason went, I wasn't sure what was going to happen with him, especially as money started to dry up around the league. And I think them getting him on that big 1-year contract was excellent for the Lakers because it's almost kind of a tryout for Caldwell Pope, and they get to see what he can do and help give them a backcourt mate for ball, a good solid defender, a guy who can score the ball a little bit of a playmaker. So all around, I'm with you. It's the longtime diehard grew up a Celtics fan in me hates to say it, but I think the Lakers had a fantastic summer.
Hey, I don't think the Celtics did too badly either, landing Gordon Hayward and everything. But it's a little bit ironic because as much as you love and I love the Kentavious Caldwell-Pope move, that actually doesn't happen unless the Celtics land Hayward because they were forced to move Avery Bradley, and then that caused the Pistons to let Caldwell-Pope go, and then the Lakers said thank you. So kind of weird, but in a roundabout way, the Celtics kind of helped the Lakers inadvertently, but here we are.
Absolutely, yeah. I always like to say if you really want to string the moves together, very few NBA moves happen in a vacuum of themselves. Everything is always chained to something else, and you can do that. And that's if you're a roster nerd like me, that's really fun to do with draft picks, where it's this pick was traded for this guy, who then was traded for the and you can chain it together over decades if you really want to spend the time and effort. And I wouldn't encourage it because I don't know if that's a good use of anybody's time. But I enjoy it. I get a kick out of it. And then I try to tell my wife, and she's like, I don't like, yeah, okay, cool. That guy retired 15 years ago, and I don't know who he is. Leave me alone. So it works out that way. But yeah, it was it definitely was linked together. The Celtics, the move that they created there allowed the Pistons. Pistons might have been letting Caldwell Pope go at that point anyway because of luxury tax concerns and not wanting to overload their roster with too many guys on big contracts. But it definitely worked out in the Lakers' favor, and I think they might have got one of the better kind of bargain upside deals. It's tough that it's only be a 1-year deal, and we're going to talk about why that is later on in the show, but that move, even if it is only for 1 year, they got a fantastic player.
Yeah, he's a wonderful player, and also the fit next to Lonzo Ball. I really love that. I like the idea of him making up for Lonzo's defensive shortcomings, at least to some extent. And so I was a huge fan of that move, still am, and I'm excited to see what's going to come from all that. But you know what? As much as I'm excited for this coming season, so much of the Lakers' future is going to be dependent on not so much this year, but it's going to be next summer. We know that Magic Johnson and Rob Pelinka have been scheming and planning to try to create cap space for the summer of 2018. Keith, why is that? Who is it that's going to be on the market that they're going to chase after?
Well, I think there might be this guy. I'm not sure. People might have heard of him. His name's LeBron James.
I may have heard of him in passing.
Yeah, he's okay. I mean, he's only, I think, made 7 or 8 straight finals or whatever silly number it's at now. He's the main guy, right? He's on the market. There's a lot of conversation that LeBron James wants to go west. He wants to end up in the Los Angeles area. That has been buzzing really since it started. Where I first started hearing it was at the beginning of the playoffs, and it grew stronger as we got deeper into the playoffs, and then got really strong at the NBA Finals. And then as Cleveland has turned into a little bit of a tire fire over the last couple of months, it's only grown even more. So he's the main guy, and then kind of the I hate to call him the second in line because he's a fantastic all-star talent himself, is Paul George, who's a California native, and he has reportedly said not only does he want to get back to California, but he has reportedly put out there he wants to play for the Lakers. Specifically, that's the team he wants to move back home to play for, rather than just kind of leaving it. LeBron's left it a little more ambiguous from all reports, where George has seemed to hone in more on the Lakers. So those are the two guys. I think they're what the Lakers are trying to gear things around and make their moves for in the future. It seems like those are the big time, I don't know if there's more than a home run, but those are the home run moves that they're trying to make.
And there's the possibility, we know there's an extension on the table for him, but the possibility that Russell Westbrook could be there, and we know he played his college ball at UCLA, so maybe there's a link there. And then possibly DeMarcus Cousins. I mean, I don't know if you put him quite at the same level of those other three, but still, I mean, he would be a pretty big name and pretty serious player that would be out there to pursue should something fall through with, LeBron James or George or Westbrook or whoever, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Those other two guys, I leave them out just because I find it a little more far-fetched, I guess, is the way I would want to put it. Now, I will say with Westbrook, every day that goes by that he doesn't also sign, like James Harden did, that massive extension to really lock him into the Thunder for a minimum of the next 4 to 5 years beyond this season, it does, for me, it raises my eyebrow slightly higher of, maybe there is something there. Maybe he is looking to move on. And we know, that he loves Los Angeles. He's obviously got interests outside of basketball. That's not to say basketball is not his primary interest with that. And then DeMarcus Cousins, we got to see, can they make that work in New Orleans playing two bigs as the rest of the NBA goes small? If it doesn't work, you're absolutely right. He could be the guy who looks to move on, because I think the Pelicans, as much as it might be time to trade Anthony Davis for a king's ransom, I think they might look to say, all right, let's get Cousins moving in a different direction and then rebuild this thing yet again around Anthony Davis.
Yeah, that's we'll get to the Lakers in just a minute here, but the Pelicans, gosh, that's a mess. I mean, they're talking about starting Rondo in their backcourt along with Drew Holiday, and then you also have a front court with Cousins and Anthony Davis. I mean, it's plenty of talent there, but man, it feels like a team that has had no shooting got even less shooting, and they're going to be, God, that's just, there's so much talent. You figure they have to win some games, but it just seems like the pieces don't fit. So if things don't go well in New Orleans this season, I mean, I'd certainly be looking for teams to pursue DeMarcus Cousins pretty hard next summer.
Absolutely. So at the expense of turning this into the Pelicans podcast, which neither one of us is a Pelicans guy, but you're absolutely right. It's Davis, Cousins, Holiday, and then a bunch of guys. Right. Now some of them are good, but some of them are not so good, and it's really, they're still going into this thing with Solomon Hill probably as the starting small forward, and then Darius Miller, who they just brought back from Europe, behind him. And that's really, is that what you want? Is that a playoff level team, especially in the Western Conference? It's going to have to work out amazing to have the big man tandem, and they're just going to have to pound people inside for that for them to be a playoff team in my mind. And even then, that part of it may work out fantastic, but if all the rest of it stinks, I don't know how far you get. So I'm definitely with you, on that one, and that'll close out my portion of the Pelicans talk.
So let's move on from New Orleans. We'll talk about Cousins a little bit in just a bit here, but the Lakers have been planning to try to have cap space for next summer for 2018. The D'Angelo Russell trade is certainly part of that because they brought in Brook Lopez, got rid of Timofey Mozgov. Brook Lopez has a contract that expires at the end of the year. So while he is a good player and he will certainly help the team this season, he may not be with the team long term. But other than that, what's their cap situation at right now as far as 2018 goes? Can they actually bring in 2 max free agents?
It's going to be hard. And this is, I'm glad we're talking about this because this is one of my things, and I'm going to divert from your question, but I promise I will answer it. Is all last summer was, the Celtics have max cap space. They have max cap space, or all last year, I should say. And then the summer hit, and I had, wasted thousands of words trying to explain they don't have max cap space. They're going to have to get rid of Avery Bradley or Jay Crowder or somebody. And as we talked, Avery Bradley was the one who went. And people just kept saying, no, I read, they have max cap space. And I get that they got there, right? And teams can get there. Mm-hmm. But it's a little bit, for me, it becomes a little bit of sloppy reporting because then it puts folks like myself or, I know you guys are very familiar with Eric Pincus, who he's the preeminent guy who knows this stuff and obviously knows the Lakers quite well. Is one of the things that we end up both having to do is spend a lot of time of like, can they get there? Sure. But it's not as just easy as they wake up on July 1st and they've got the max cap space. There's things that have to happen. So for the Lakers right now, how it's going to look, and this is going to sound a little weird, but stick with me for a minute. They're actually going to probably hit the start of the summer as an over the cap team right now because of cap holds, which are, without going super deep into it, those are a mechanism where free agents still count against your cap. So in this case, the 2 big ones for the Lakers are Brook Lopez and then Caldwell Pope, and then they've got a series of medium to small cap holds that will be on the books. So they're going to be over the cap, but you start chunking those away. So if they say, we're going to move on from Brook Lopez, what there is this process called renouncing a free agent, which essentially what that does is it removes their cap hold from your books. So they renounce Brook Lopez, see you later. That clears almost $34 million in cap space because that's how large his cap hold is. Then if they said, Caldwell Pope, we love it, thanks for the great year, see you later, that's another $21.3 million that comes off the books. And now you start adding it up and it starts getting there. But where I see the Lakers, the max they can get to, and this is if they let every single free agent that they could potentially have go, which they won't do, which I'll get into in a second, they could get to about $53.4 million in cap space. That's enough for one max free agent and leaves you short by about 13-ish million. Now, it'd actually be less than that because they're not going to let Brandon Ingram go, obviously.
Right.
They're not going to let Larry Nance Jr. go, obviously. Right? So now you're having to clear off guys like Thomas Bryant, who they have a team option on for next year. Get rid of him. You're not going to pick that team option up. Tyler Ennis, who they gave a non-guaranteed contract to for his second year, that he gets waived. Then they're going to, they would have to let Julius Randle go to get to max cap space. And then Ivica Zubac, they'd probably keep him because it's $1.5 million. That's only slightly over the minimum amount anyway, so you probably keep him. So now you've knocked off everything in an additional $12 million or so. And you would renounce Corey Brewer, who's a free agent. You would let him head out the door. There's no draft pick in play, so that's not going to eat up any of the cap space. Now you're starting to get in range where, all right, now you're pretty close. And if you can do something with Luol Deng's contract to move Jordan Clarkson, now you're probably just about there, or you're close enough that with one other small move, you can make it happen.
We're going to pause for just one moment to talk about Audible, which allows you to listen to some of your favorite books which is absolutely tremendous. I love consuming books this way. I do it all the time. I put on a book in my car whenever I'm driving. When I am scrolling the internet looking for Lakers news, I'll have my headphones in. When I am looking through Twitter and I'm reading everyone's hot takes, then I will have my headphones going and I've got whatever book that I'm listening to at the time just rolling through. It's great because it allows you to listen to a book and enjoy the content while you can still do other things at the same time. And it's just a tremendous way to consume the various types of literature that you want to look at. Now, right now, Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. All you have to do is go to audible.com/LakersNation, and you can browse an unmatched selection of audio programs. You download a title for free and start listening. It's just that easy. Go to audible.com/LakersNation. Again, that's audible.com/LakersNation. They have all kinds of titles on there. Some of my favorites include Phil Jackson's 11 Rings. I loved reading that, just getting Phil's inside take on not just the Lakers, but in the NBA as well. And then Tim Howard's book, The Keeper. Tim Howard is the goalkeeper for the U.S. men's national team, and he wrote all about playing in the 2014 World Cup and what his life has been like. I loved reading his stories about going over to England and getting recognized everywhere when back in the U.S. he didn't get recognized when he was playing for Manchester United over there, and just the pressure of playing for such a big club. Very, very cool because I grew up playing soccer. My position was goalkeeper, so I really enjoyed Tim Howard's book. But whatever you're into, whether it's soccer, whether it's basketball, I assume most of you are into basketball because you're listening to this show, but whether it's MMA, whether it is drama, whether it's romance, sci-fi, thrillers, whatever, they have it on Audible. So definitely worth going and checking out. Again, go to audible.com/LakersNation and you get a phenomenal deal. You will not regret it. Go check out audible.com/LakersNation. Now let's talk a bit more about the Lakers' quest to land two superstars next summer. So they need to get to about $66 million or so total in cap space, and that would be to do like George and LeBron. George and Cousins would be a little bit less because he has a lower max, but still George and LeBron would be about 66. So you mentioned Jordan Clarkson. Let's talk about him for a second here because he seems to be pretty polarizing. Lakers fans seem to see him as somebody who has some positive trade value out there. And from going on, I have hopped on to Real GM's trade and transaction board before and seen people arguing left and right about Jordan Clarkson and his value. And some people say that he has negative value and the Lakers would have to give up assets for somebody to take him on. And then others say, no, he's perfectly fine on his contract. What's your take? What's his value at around the league? Could the Lakers actually get something in return for him, or is he a guy that they may have to give up an asset to convince another team to take?
Yeah, so for me to answer this, I think it's fair for me to give kind of my impression of what Jordan Clarkson is as a player. And in my opinion, I think this season, and really last year, he's in the role he should be in, which is a combo scoring guard off your bench. That's where he should slot in this year behind Ball and Caldwell Pope. So for me, at 11.5 this year, 12.5 next year, that's perfectly fine. I don't have any issue with that. He's not a super positive value because combo scoring guards off a bench aren't, they're not necessarily making in the, low double figures, but it's by no means a bad contract. I would not say it's in a position where the Lakers would have to give up draft picks to get a team to eat Jordan Clarkson's deal. The only way that could happen is if we absolutely have to trade Jordan Clarkson, and then the other team's like, hey, we got you over a barrel, we'll take it on, give us a first round pick or whatever the case is with that. But in general, I would say he's probably more neutral to slightly positive value, and a lot's going to depend on how he does this year. And I think this year what's going to be nice is he's really got that bench combo guard role all to himself. There's no Lou Williams around to split it with this year. There's nobody like that he's going to share those touches with. And I think if he can come off the bench and score, 10, 12 points a game off the bench fairly efficiently, then all of a sudden you might have a team be like, all right, hey, we could bring him in and he can play the same role for us. And now the Lakers can move him. Now, he's probably not going to return much, the Lakers, I wouldn't expect to get a first round pick back for him or anything like that. But it's not going to be a situation where the Lakers would have to say, all right, well, here's a pick or two for you to eat him. I don't think we're there at that point with Jordan Clarkson.
Yeah, I think you made a great point about his role, and that's the one thing that's really been in flux for pretty much his entire career with the Lakers
Yep.
so far. I mean, he started off as a rookie, he was a point guard, then next thing you know, he's a starting shooting guard. Last season, he was a sixth man, and then for the final few weeks of the season, they said, hey, why don't we try point guard again? So
Yep.
hopefully just having that sixth man role locked down all season will allow him to increase his value. Magic Johnson did say just the other day that he's hoping that Jordan Clarkson will step up and contend for sixth man of the year. Maybe that's a bit of a lofty goal there, but it was a little bit funny because when Magic said that, I instantly thought, yeah, you hope he can so that you can trade him and it'll
Yep.
increase his trade value.
Just like they did with Lou Williams, right?
Yeah, the exact same situation. But still, it is good to hear that Clarkson doesn't necessarily have negative value, at least in your mind. And the Lakers word did break the other day that the Lakers believe that they can move Clarkson when the time comes, that he is a tradable piece. So that's a good thing, too, that if they need to move on from Clarkson, they can, hopefully without too much pain. Now,
Yeah, and sorry, I want to add
go
one
ahead.
thing too. Talking to some folks around the league, some of the different scouts and front office executives, one of the things that they'll say is this is kind of the year where they want to see what is he, because his early years in the league, he very much had screamed that profile of good stats, bad team, and it's very easy, even for young rookie guards at the end of the NBA season, to pile up these incredible looking stats when they're on a bad team, because teams are just kind of playing out the string. And at that point, it's like, well, what am I supposed to do with this? This is almost, it becomes almost useless data to look at. It's better than playing poorly, but playing great doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot. So one of the things that the folks I've talked to have said, we really want to see what he is this year. If he does well this year, all of a sudden it's like, all right, now we think we know what this guy is, and then that helps set the stage for everything else. So he's got some fans and some people watching very closely. Let's put it that way.
Let's take a quick break because I want to talk about snacks. And when I think about snacks now, I think about Nature Box. Now, we all want to eat better, but when it comes to snacking, sometimes it feels like the whole world is delicious, but also a billion calories versus boring and tasteless. Well, it doesn't have to be that way. You can actually up your snack game with Nature Box. Nature Box has over 100 snacks that taste good and are actually better for you. All snacks are made from high quality, simple ingredients, which means there's no artificial colors, flavors, or sweeteners, so you can feel good about what you're eating. My favorites are the Snickerdoodle cookies. I am completely hooked on these things. They are mini cookies that are absolutely delicious. My wife loves the vanilla bean wafers. It seems like no matter what we get, though, whenever we get a new Nature Box in the mail, there's always something just awesome in there. You're sure to find your new snack obsession at Nature Box. They add new snacks every month inspired by real customer feedback, the latest food trends, and professional chefs. It's so simple. You just go to naturebox.com, choose the snacks you want, and NatureBox will deliver them right to your door. And there's no risk. If you ever try a snack you don't like, you don't have to eat it. NatureBox will replace it for free. So right now, you can even save more because NatureBox is offering Lakers Nation fans 3 free snacks when you place your first order and you go to naturebox.com/Lakers. That's right. All you have to do is go to naturebox.com/Lakers and you get 3 free snacks with your first order. Again, go check it out. naturebox.com/Lakers and up your snacking game. Now, going back to our discussion on Jordan Clarkson, he's definitely one of those guys where it's hard to really tell just because he's bounced around so much and everything. And you know what? I mean, it's easy to forget, but he was actually first team all rookie. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe you put a little asterisk by it because that was the year that pretty much every rookie got hurt. I mean,
Yeah.
Jabari Parker and Joel Embiid and all those guys that were in that class were also hurt. So Clarkson kind of jumps up into that first team slot. But still, I mean, he's got talent. It is there. So let's move on to a guy. gosh, I'm going to wince just saying this, but I don't even know what it's going to take to move his contract. Luol Deng, he's got, I mean, that 4 years, $72 million deal that the Lakers gave him last summer. It almost seems like they have to figure out something to do with this contract if they're going to have room for 2 max slots. I mean, it has to be done, whether he's stretched or traded. And I guess let's explore the trade avenue first. How painful is it going to be to trade Luol Deng? What's it going to cost the Lakers?
Yeah, it's going to be painful. The challenge for Luol Deng isn't necessarily the money that's owed; it's more the years. It's
right.
If it was just this year, or if it was only even 1 year at the $18 million, you might get a team that says, "All right, give us 1 first-round pick and we're good." It's having that second year at almost $19 million in 1920 that's fully guaranteed, no sort of option. And again, it's just awful. And that's going to be the thing that teams are going to say, I would be shocked if they can get off this contract for less than 2 first-round picks. And the reason being is cap space is, right, a lot of people we had to reset our brains in 2015 and 2016 to, holy crap, look at all this money that's out there, which is part of the reason why Luol Deng's making what he's making.
Right.
Now we have to retrain our brains to go back to what was it like from, say, 2008-9 through 2014 summers of you had 1 or 2 teams with meaningful cap space, a couple teams with a little bit of cap space, and then everybody else was functioning over the cap. And that's where we're back to, right? It's, despite the cap going up, NBA teams can't help themselves. And not to take shots, but like the Lakers, we have cap space, we got to spend it, and they do. And nobody's sitting. Even look at the Brooklyn Nets; they used almost all their cap space this year. Now they used it in trades to pick up Allen Crabbe and to take on DeMarre Carroll and those kind of things. So now you're sitting in a position where you're not going to have 10 teams with $20+ million and just say, hey, throw us a first-round pick, we'll eat it. Now the Lakers can find someone to do that with, but it's going to cost them, and it's going to definitely cost them because of that extra year on the books, unless a team can really work out, and ideally the Lakers would like this, is, will you just walk away, retire? But I find it hard to believe Luol Deng, who was not last season, but the year before, he was a productive player. I find it hard to think he's going to walk away from $37 million to just say, yeah, I'm done. And, and that's going to be really tough. And I like what you said, because he may be the guy more so than Clarkson that the Lakers have to get off that deal. That's the one, if they can only get to a point to get 1 max free agent, that's the one they're going to be, kicking themselves because he's sitting on the books at that big number.
So with Luol Deng, and here's the other thing, we talked earlier about Jordan Clarkson and how, he could actually play up his trade value a little bit. If he really does get himself even somewhere in the vicinity of that 6th man of the year conversation, if he does prove to teams exactly who he is, as you said before, then he could have a little bit more trade value mid-season than maybe he does right now. Okay, because he could prove some things to teams. Luol Deng, I don't know that he can do that, and even if he could do that, I don't think the opportunity is there for him to do it on the Lakers roster, because realistically at this point, this guy's a power forward, and the only minutes the Lakers have for him is at small forward, because they already have Julius Randle, Larry Nance Jr., and now Kyle Kuzma occupying that power forward slot. So It's a really tough situation to be in. I don't even see what Deng does to carve out minutes next season. It's a really tough spot. But I've heard a lot of fans say this. They say, well, if we can't find a taker, or if it's too expensive to trade Deng, no big deal, they'll just stretch him. And I cringe a little bit when they say that, because that isn't like this just get out of jail free card or anything like that. How does the math work out for that? Exactly how big of a hit would Deng be to the Lakers if they did decide to take that stretch option?
So I'm gonna give you a couple different numbers here, so folks can know what we're looking at. So how the stretch provision works is you take the number of years left on the contract times 2 plus 1 year. So I'm going to give you 2 different numbers because it depends on when the Lakers do it. So if the Lakers did it today, if they wake up tomorrow morning and they say, Don, we're moving him out, What you would take is he's owed a little over 17 this year, 18 next year, and just under 19 the year after. So you add all that up, and then you divide it by 7 years, because 3 times 2 plus 1, so that'd be a 7-year stretch. That gives you $7.7 million of a cap hit. So they'd save about 10 million or so this year, a little under that, about 11 million next year, a little under that, and then a little over 11 million in that third year. But then you're going to also have, for 4 more years after that, a $7.7 million cap hit. So I find it unlikely. They're not going to do that, right? Yeah. Would be my guess. So now if you take it to next offseason, they've only got to stretch the 18 owed in 18-19 and then the 18.8 owed in 19-20. So you're talking 36, almost 37 million. And that would get stretched over 5 years at a cap hit of 10.8 million. So you would only actually end up saving 7.2 million in that first year. That's all you're going to add to your cap. Now, if that makes the difference between getting LeBron James and Paul George and LeBron James and a bunch of dudes, well, yeah, then you do it. That's not a question, and you just eat it. I mean, it's not like the Lakers are hurting for money. You're just going to do that and go. So those are kind of the two numbers that you're looking at, and you gotta keep kind of constantly in your mind working as like, are they going to do this now or do they do it later?
Right, and you know what? Here's the thing that I've been kicking back and forth, and I'll get your take on it. If they decide to stretch him, then, and let's assume they wait till next summer to stretch him, because that just makes all kinds of sense. Doesn't make much sense to do it right now. But let's say they do it next summer. They stretch his contract. What's worse? Is it worse to do that and stretch him, and then you have dead money on your books for 5 years, or is it worse to give up those 2 first rounder? I mean, if you had to pick your poison, what do you think they should do?
Yeah. So here's the tricky part, right? Is they're not going to have their first round pick this year because that's going off to either Philadelphia or Boston.
Right.
So because of that, you have to wait now to even give up next year's first round pick. And what teams are going to do is teams are going to want to say, I want those picks when I want them, because look at it. If you're another team, let's pretend we're, I don't know, the Indiana Pacers, and we say, all right, we'll eat Deng's contract. I want to position those first round picks in a point where, all right, well, you're doing this so you can get a LeBron James and a Paul George, or a Paul George and DeMarcus Cousins, or Westbrook and LeBron, whoever it is. You're going to be really, really good. I want to position it so that I want those picks when those guys aren't really, really good. Because I don't just want 2 picks that are, 28, 29, 30. I don't want those. And then you have to space them out with a year in between because of the way the pick trades work. You can't trade picks in consecutive seasons in the future.
Right. The Stepien rule.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, you got it. The Stepien rule. So what that does is that leaves you as the Lakers, they can't even trade a pick right now in 2018. Because in 2019, because they owe their 2018 pick already to Philadelphia or Boston. Now, the minute that pick is made, now they're freed up. They can trade 2019. That's not a problem. The consecutive year rule doesn't count anything that happened in the past. But today, the earliest pick they could trade would be their 2020 first round pick. So that's where it gets really tricky. And then obviously beyond that, then it becomes the 2022. And then it becomes like, what am I trying to do? And it's really, that's where it gets tricky. Look at the Brooklyn Nets. Part of the reason they're hurting is they traded first round picks for guys who ended up being older, fell off the cliff very quickly, and the team fell apart. And now the Nets are paying for it and have paid for it for now 4 years running. What we're going to see with the Lakers is you trade those picks, and I don't think a team's going to say, yeah, that's fine. You can protect them lottery or top 10 protected. Not if I'm eating $18 million plus a year. I want those unprotected. And then it gets really tricky because now you're projecting, are we even going to be good in a couple of years? I think if any franchise can say it, it's the Lakers, because they're the Lakers. Rarely are they down for long stretches. Right. So I think they could probably get away with trading the future picks. But that's a very long way of me saying an explanation of, I would stretch Deng right now, today. And I would just eat that $7.7 million going forward for the next 7 years, because I think that is less of a burden for the Lakers to work around than it would be to be without 2 first-round picks, and it's less dangerous to have that money on the books because they always have the ability to get guys just because of who they are as a franchise. That's, to me, less scary than having first-round picks just floating out there not available to you to use.
So now you would stretch him right now. You wouldn't even wait
Yep.
until next summer to stretch him?
I wouldn't, because what I want to do is I want to, in the summer of 2018, I want to free up that almost $11 million. I don't want to free up just $7 million. So I want that longer stretch that brings all of the money down into that 7.7 range versus stretching him in the summer and only bringing it down to 10.8 million. I want to get as much money clear going into the summer. And then if I need to do something like move Jordan Clarkson, now all of a sudden I'm sitting really pretty. I've got, I cleared, 10.5 or whatever it is from Deng. And now I've cleared, and then I clear another 12.5 from Clarkson. Now that's 22.5 plus all the space I could have. Now I'm golden. I can do whatever I want to do.
Right. Okay. So maybe that is an option that they go with. Now, if they do wait until next summer to stretch him, they would be stretching him over what would be 5 years instead of 7 years.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Because two times the number of years left plus a year. So at that point, there'd only be 2 years left. So, yep.
So it's going to be a tough situation for the Lakers regardless. I mean, obviously, they're going to have to pay for the sins of Mitch Kupchak and Jim Buss, who handed out a bunch of money last summer because they misread the market completely, and they thought that the cap was just going to keep going up forever and that these deals would look just fine. And also, we know they were kind of trying to save their own jobs, and they were hoping to hit something, trying to get Deng and Mozgov to do something decent for the team and maybe them jump up, but obviously it didn't work. They didn't end up being a better team because of those guys, and now Magic Johnson and Rob Pelinka are going to have to figure out a way to pay for it. And one of the other kind of loose ends that's out there for the Lakers right now is Julius Randle. And Julius Randle is actually, it almost seems hard to believe, but he's going to be entering the last year of his contract. It doesn't feel like it because he lost his rookie season to injury. He had that broken leg, but he is going to be a free agent next summer. Whether or not he's restricted will depend on what the Lakers are going to do. What's your take on Julius Randle? I've got his cap hold at just over $12 million. What kind of player can he be, and is it worth the Lakers trying to do something to hang on to him, or are they going to have to watch him go?
Yeah, so this one becomes really hard. This is one of the trickier spots. One thing I feel 100% confident in saying is they will not do an extension with him. Just little education piece. This is the cap nerd in me, so I got to do it. Is players who are entering their 4th year of their rookie scale are eligible to sign that big, extension, which would kick in the following summer. We see that every year with a handful of guys, C.J. McCollum, Anthony Davis of recent years. Randle could do that. The Lakers aren't going to do that because that would kill their cap space. That'd be it. Because Randle's not going to take probably at this point anything less than $15 million a year, and he shouldn't. So that's off the table. So you're 100% right. $12.4 million cap hold going to be on the books next summer as a restricted free agent, provided the Lakers issue him a qualifying offer, which is the first step of a restricted free agent. They'd have to say, here's a qualifying offer of a little over $5.5 million. And that allows them to keep his restricted free agent rights. So what I think the Lakers do is and that has to happen prior to July 1st. That has to happen at the end of June. So at the end of June, I think they do that because Randall's not going to sign it. That's the only risk you have is that he signs it. He's not going to do that because he's going to want to make more than $5.5 million. Yeah. But the Lakers do that in case all their other plans go to crap and, don't work out. Then they're like, oh no, LeBron doesn't want to come. George, Westbrook, Cousins, nobody wants to come here, and it all, fizzles out before it even came to be. So there's really no risk there. The other piece is if Randle gets an offer then from another team as a restricted free agent, that's now the Lakers are in a position of, oh, shoot, do we just let him walk for nothing or do we match this? Well, again, they're not going to match anything until they know for certain what's happening with the superstar free agents, I should say. So I think what they'll do is they'll do it just to keep options open. The minute they have commitments from whoever it is, and for what it's worth, I haven't said it, I believe they will get somebody. Then they'll make their move to do what we call rescind the qualifying offer, which makes him an unrestricted free agent. Then they'll renounce his rights to clear the cap hold entirely off the books.
So similar to what the Pistons did with KCP.
Yeah, absolutely. What they did with KCP, what the Celtics actually did with Kelly Olynyk. They had to do that this summer with him. So they went into the summer and said, we're going to give you the qualifying offer just because if Hayward says no, then maybe we re-sign you. When Hayward, the minute they knew, we're getting Hayward, they rescinded the qualifying offer, and then they didn't have to renounce Olynyk's rights because of timing wise, the Heat just signed him first, which also removes the cap hold. But if the Heat had delayed another few days, the Celtics would have renounced Kelly Olynyk and said, all right, go. So that's the game the Lakers are going to kind of have to play with Julius Randle here. What do I think of him as a player? I like him enough. He continues to show signs, over his 2 years. As you said, he's really got 2 years of experience. What did he play, 30 seconds or whatever the number was his rookie year?
It was something tiny. It was just a few minutes.
Yeah, before he broke his leg, right, if I remember right?
Yes, yeah, he broke his leg. It was against the Houston Rockets.
Yeah, opening night. Moment. Yeah. So it's so for him, he shows signs. He's good ball handler for a guy's size. He can do some things. There's times when I think he gets a little too jump shot happy, in some of the games I've watched, but that's hard to know where the Lakers have been down. Is that what the coaches are asking out of him, or is that just him, doing that? Or are they saying, go ahead and take the jumpers because what do we care? We'd rather you practice it, than that. That's always hard to know exactly where that's at unless you're really close to the situation. He still is a pretty good rebounder. Can't really defend and do too much on that end for my money. I feel like he's one of those guys who what I think is going to happen is, because I'm sure I've seen those pictures that they almost look fake of how shredded this dude is. Now,
oh yeah. Yeah, he looks like he's about ready to go step into an MMA cage and go fight John Jones or something.
He looks
like that.
Like the after picture in Captain America from when he went from the little guy to the big guy. He just went from a fat guy to a shredded guy. But he is. I think he's going to come in and just have a really great season. I think he's going to fit great with Lonzo. I think he's going to really help him because he runs the floor pretty well, and I think Lonzo passes guys open. It's going to help him to play with him, and I think that's going to cause him to have a big year. And then I think because of that, he is either going to be the Lakers are going to play that game of, all right, we're going to hang on till we can't, but he's going to get himself a pretty good contract, and then he's just going to have to live up to it, whether that's from the Lakers if all else fails in other avenues or from somebody else. I think you're going to see Julius Randle land himself a pretty good deal.
Yeah, he's also playing next to Brook Lopez. From watching Randle play the last few years, that one of the issues has been that he's pretty good at beating his man off the dribble. He has a pretty good first step. I'm actually writing a piece all about this for LakersNation.com, but he is going to thrive with Brook Lopez pulling the other big out of the paint, because what tends to happen is Randle beats his man, and the next thing you know, the next big has stepped over and is contesting him, and then he struggles to finish over that guy. So I do think that Randle's gonna have a big season. The one question that's bouncing through my head here is there some way, if the Lakers just bite the bullet and they pay the draft picks it takes to move Dang, if they can move Clarkson and not take any salary back, is there the possibility of landing James, Paul, and somehow hanging on to Randle as well? When I'm looking at the math, it looks like it's somewhat close if they can get those contracts out of there without bringing anything back.
Yeah, it would be hard. Without fully running it all the way down to the penny on that, I think you would get to a point where it's going to be hard. It's as I kind of tell folks, going back to the Gordon Hayward situation, it was hard enough to get cap space for Gordon Hayward. Don't get greedy. It's going to be hard enough for the Lakers to get enough cap space for LeBron James and let's just say Paul George, because either Westbrook or Cousins or whoever, though, it's going to be hard enough to get there. Having anything extra left over probably means Randle or one of those two guys or both they all take a little bit less. And I've heard folks say, well, LeBron took less to go to the Heat. Well, that was a different situation. That was
Yeah.
three in their prime superstar players coming together, knew they were going to compete for titles. Now, whatever team LeBron's on until, I don't know, he's what, 60 or 70 years old, apparently, the way this guy's going, will be a title contender. But it's not going to be it's not going to be a locked in like these guys are going right to the finals. So that becomes a little harder to say, hey, take a little less because we can do this. I'm not sure it's going to happen. We've also heard LeBron say as he's gotten older, more involved in like the players union and those things, he kind of feels a responsibility to take the max so that owners won't do this to players and say, "Oh, I need you to take less. I need you to take less." He doesn't want to do that. He wants to be responsible to his, fellow basketball players, and he wants to take the money to prove like, no, hey, we can get this. We should get this. So that's where I just find that to be a hard road to see coming together unless there's just nothing out there for him and he says, you know what, screw it, I'll sign the qualifying offer, I'll play with these great players, and then we'll go from there. Which maybe that one just gets really tricky for me to see.
We're going to take one more break to talk about Casper mattresses, which is a mattress that I have begun using, and I am getting some of the best sleep ever on it. It's really a phenomenal product. The Casper mattress is an obsessively engineered mattress at a shockingly fair price. It combines supportive memory foams to create an award-winning sleep service with just the right sink and just the right bounce. With over 20,000 reviews and an average of 4.8 stars, it's quickly becoming the internet's favorite mattress. People just love these things, and it's easy to see why. They have free shipping and returns to the US and Canada, and you can try the Casper mattress for 100 nights totally risk-free in your own home. If you don't love it, they'll pick it up and refund you everything. Risk-free. That's amazing. It is designed, developed, and assembled in the United States. And get this, they have a special deal just for listeners of the Lakers Nation podcast. All you have to do is go to casper.com/Lonzo2. That's Lonzo2, like Lonzo Ball's first name, and then the number 2, which is Lonzo's jersey number. Pretty cool. So casper.com/Lonzo2, pick out the mattress that you want, and when you go to check out, use Lonzo2 again as your promo code. So again, casper.com/Lonzo2, then use Lonzo2 as your promo code, and you will get $50 towards any mattress purchase. Pretty cool deal. Definitely go check these guys out. Once again, casper.com/Lonzo2, and then again, use Lonzo2 as your promo code. Get $50 off. Phenomenal deal. Go give them a look. So, Keith, let's talk a bit about Brandon Ingram here.
Here's what I want to know happens. And I'm just going to stick with LeBron and Paul George because that seems like the preferred path, if you will. What happens to Brandon Ingram then? Because you don't need him.
I was thinking about this earlier today. Actually, I was out mowing my lawn, and I was thinking about this. I was thinking about what I was going to talk about on today's show and everything. And I'm out pushing the lawnmower, and I'm like, man, if you get LeBron and you get Paul George, I think you have to assume that in that lineup you're using LeBron as probably the 4, and Paul George is going to be the 3. Lonzo Ball is certainly the 1. I mean, just by default, I think you almost have to slot in Brandon Ingram as the 2. But that's not really a natural fit. He can handle the ball a little bit, we saw last season and everything, but I don't know that that really guarding 2s is going to be his game. If anything, I think as he grows, he's going to be pushing more to spend a few minutes at the power forward spot than anything else. So it's not a great fit. I think that's the type of situation where you just kind of put all the pieces together and then you figure out a way to work out the minutes. Maybe they can come up with some sort of a rotation where, if George is out, then Ingram's in there at the 3, or when LeBron's out, then maybe Ingram slides down to 4, because we know Paul George is apparently allergic to playing power forward, or at least that's what happened with the whole Pacers experiment. So yeah, it's not a very natural fit, and it's tough, but I just think Luke Walton will figure out a way to make it work. Bottom line. It's Brandon Ingram. If he ends up doing what they think he can do, and based on his one game in Summer League, the improvement that we've seen from him, I think you have to figure out something to do with him. But yeah, not a natural fit. At least that's the way I see it.
Yeah, two things on that for me, right? It's a problem you hope to have let's get there and figure it out, kind of like what you said. And then just to touch on what you said, for my money, I know it was only one game. Brandon Ingram was the best player I saw this summer, and it wasn't even close. I know he had cramps, and I know no one can see me, but I'm doing the air quotes. I think that was more of we saw everything we needed to see. We're putting you in the garage. We'll see you in the fall, because he was so far and above anybody else on the floor in that one game. It was ridiculous. He looked so good. So that's keep that in mind. And that's kind of why I what starts to make me wonder is it better to go the LeBron and Cousins route, or the Paul George and Cousins if LeBron doesn't want to go? Is that the smarter route than trying to get the two wings? I kind of because the other thing with LeBron is he will play power forward. I don't think he wants to play the four full time. I don't think that's where he wants to start games. So it's just that it was you did it mowing the lawn. I kind of did it when I was just doing kind of menial tasks around the house this morning. I was like, yeah, what would that be? And that it keeps coming back around as I think about that. Just so everybody knows where my mind works is once the rosters are kind of built this year, I start immediately thinking like, all right, what are we going to do next year? I'm always on to next with roster building. And before we've even seen all these new teams come together and play a game, I'm already off to, how is this going to look in 2018? So that's it's been floating around in my mind for quite a bit there.
Yeah, it's definitely something where maybe they do end up going the Cousins and George route or something. I mean, hey, if anything, that makes it a little bit easier to maybe hang on to one of, let's say, Clarkson or Randall, because Cousins' max is lower than LeBron's max would be, right? So that there's a little bit more money for them to spend. I think it's about $5 million or so. But yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you. I was blown away with Brandon Ingram in Summer League, especially when I went back and I had saved some of Brandon Ingram's first Summer League games from the previous year, and just comparing the two, it's night and day. It's incredible. Everything I've heard from behind the scenes with the Lakers is that Brandon Ingram's work ethic is incredible. Back when everybody was talking about D'Angelo Russell, everything I heard about D'Angelo Russell was there were still question marks, and then there was the exact opposite sentiment coming out about Ingram, just about how hard he works and his dedication to getting better and just how focused he is. So, yeah, I mean, I'm expecting a big season from him.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing on those two. Sorry, just to kind of add to that is that the kind of quote that I've been told repeatedly is, on a team of really young guys, he didn't seem like one of them. He, had that kind of more of a mature veteran presence almost from day one. And the thing that most impressed me at Summer League was his ability to go up and finish through contact. Last year, because still, I know you're out there, like, take the dude out for a sandwich or two, get him bulked up some. But
I know,
as a rookie, and part of that's learning, and part of that he wasn't as strong, was he would get pushed off his spot. He couldn't get through guys to finish, inside. And he started to figure that out towards the tail end of the year. And then when he was going against these other guys who now was a second year player, he was just going right through these guys. And these were some bigger guys that, were kind of draped all over him. And he was just powering up through them. And from my eye, doesn't look like he sacrificed any of his quickness or any of his speed or anything like that. So, yeah, I think he is going to, he's going to be a guy who's going to benefit from Lonzo Ball and his passing ability. And I think Ingram's going to have a really big breakout season this year.
Yeah, definitely agreed there. I think, if you have a big season from Ingram, you have a big season from Randall. If Brook Lopez continues to do his thing, and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, takes a little step up from last season, which I expect. I think his three-point shooting is going to get better playing on this Lakers team, playing with a point guard like Lonzo Ball. I think that the starting five for the Lakers is the best they've had in the last few years, at least on paper, and they could surprise some people. Not that they're going to make the playoffs or anything like that. Let's pump the brakes on all that talk, But yeah, I mean, they could be a fairly decent team next year, which is exactly what they want. They want these free agents to look at them and say, hey, man, these guys are one piece away from really being something, or two pieces away, and we can come in and kind of give them that boost. So that's kind of what they're going for. Now, Keith, before we get out of here, let's talk a little bit about the disaster plan here, Plan B. What happens if LeBron decides to stay in Cleveland, Paul George somehow gets swayed to stay in Oklahoma City, and the top free agents all don't wind up coming to the Lakers. They've got cap space that they've created. What do they do?
I don't know that it would be the worst idea to almost kind of roll it over, because I think at this point, the guys like LeBron especially, he's not signing another long-term deal unless something goes really weird, like he gets hurt and the year doesn't go how it's expected or something like that. He's probably only going to sign for another year or two at the most. So if I was the Lakers, and let's use the positive side on the how the season goes. Let's say the young guys look pretty good. Lopez, gives them a solid performance. Caldwell Pope looks good. Why not run it back? Re-sign Caldwell Pope, re-sign Lopez. Just keep it reasonable. I don't care if you give those guys $25 million a piece for 1 year. Whatever, that's fine. That's not going to hurt you. And then you roll it into the next year, because there's always going to be free agents. There's always going to be good free agents available. So I think at that point you roll it over. What they can't do, you can't say, well, we lost out on all those guys. I got to panic and go sign a Dang or a Mozgov just because I have this money. You'd be better served to just bring it back together, with the guys you had, assuming it goes well. And now if that goes poorly, then it's hard because they don't have their pick. So it's going to be tough to sell another thing. At that point, go get targeted free agents who fill a need. Get a center who can help out. Get another guard who can put some points on the board. And again, overpay if you have to. Do what the 76ers did with JJ Redick. They paid him $23 million, right, which I know a lot of people are like, what? In what world is he worth that? Well, one, he's not going to Philadelphia if they don't give him something like that, but it's for one season. It's almost impossible to screw up your team with 1 year of a bad contract. Even if Redick goes out there and misses every shot he takes, it's 1 year. It's not the end of the world. It's at that point it was wasted money on the owner's part. So it's into a slightly lesser level. That's what you're looking at with Caldwell Pope. If he really stinks, oh well, whatever, right? We took a shot in the dark on this. And so if it works out, that's where it gets almost harder. What if he has a great season? And what if he blossoms into a 18, 19, 20 point per game scorer and looks terrific? And what if Lopez looks great? Now all of a sudden you're like, oh, now what do we do? Because now all of a sudden I don't know if those guys are going to say, all right, I'll do it again. I'll run it back for just a year. That's where it gets kind of hard. But if it goes as expected, or reasonably expected, I'd just run it back and just then roll it over to the next year and see where it's at. The only part there is that then you just got to figure out what do you do with Randall. And at that point, I would say if he has a good season, all right, we'll just pay him what we feel he's worth, but don't go crazy. There's no reason to overpay guys. And that's we spent a lot of time talking about Clarkson and Dang, and we didn't even talk Mozgov because I know he's off the team now, but that's what put them in the spot where it's just going to make it hard for them to maneuver. You just can't overpay guys. That can't happen.
Exactly. You can't lose your head. And the way I'm looking at it is I really do think that KCP is going to have a great season. I see his 3-point percentage going up, and that means his point total is going to go up. If Lopez and Randall both have good seasons too, I think that temptation is going to be there just to bring them all back if there isn't a superstar out there willing to take their money. But I worry about what happens when KCP says he wants a long-term deal.
Yeah.
Or when Randall wants a long-term deal, Lopez wants more than 1 year. Then what do you do? Or you're kind of put between a rock and a hard place where if you let him go, you're probably not going to find anybody on the free agent market to replace a Brook Lopez or a Kentavious Caldwell Pope, or at least not somebody that's willing to take a 1 year deal like you want. So tough situation. Hopefully that isn't what happens. But, I think it's definitely worth discussing just because it's within the realm of possibility that we could see a situation like that pop up.
Yeah, and I'll say one other kind of more outside the box idea. If everything goes to pot and they just can't do anything and they're just sitting on a ton of space and they don't want to commit to Caldwell Pope or Randall or Lopez big money, then sit on a bunch of cap space because you'll be one of the only teams with a bunch of cap space. Then maybe what they can do is they can eat a contract or two to kind of rebuild their first-round pick stash. Then the next summer, so now we're talking the summer 2019, then if you got to move Dang, whatever, I have the extra picks done. And see you later. So that's another option. By rolling it over, maybe you roll it over and say, there. Now, you're much closer to it than I am, but the sense I've gotten is, people are never going to bail on the Lakers. They're one of the cornerstone franchises in the NBA. But I do sense, and talking to a lot of different fans in Las Vegas, people are starting to get a little like, all right, enough of this. Like, we got to be playing meaningful basketball in the springtime. Again, we're the Lakers. We can't be, the most exciting thing that happens in the spring is the draft lottery. We want to get back in there. And I feel like this year is going to be tough because I think everybody is kind of taking it as, all right, we know we don't have our pick, so we're going to play as hard as we can every single night and go out there and be the best team we can because of that. But I think so many folks have said, I've built it up that, just going to get through this year and then we're getting one or two superstars the next summer, which I do still think will happen because it's the Lakers. I can't imagine them being down this long without a true franchise player. But it would be, for me, I feel like that would be a really hard sell to say, hey, we're just going to completely roll it over one more year and just, we'll eat some bad deals and build up our pick stashes. Even if that at that point would be the prudent move, I don't know that they can do that without huge criticism from the fan base.
Right, absolutely. I mean, Magic Johnson and Rob Pelinka have not been bashful or shy about saying what their plan is. They've made it known to everyone that will listen to them that they want this cap space for 2018, and they're convinced they're going to land some people. So, I mean, it's going to be an interesting season. I think we're going to see this team make some moves during the year to try to free up some space. Maybe we see Jordan Clarkson on the move. And then next summer, I mean, that's when the pressure is going to be on because they've got to put their money where their mouth is and actually deliver these big free agents that they've been promising. So it's going to be, I mean, even if the Lakers don't win a ton of games this year, I think it's going to be interesting this season because of Lonzo, because they've got these young pieces in place. And then there's just so much intrigue and drama out there about what may happen next summer and who may be coming and all that. So it's going to be a fascinating season, both from within the Lakers organization, from just watching from within the Lakers fan base, and also outside from teams looking at the Lakers and kind of wondering what they're going to do and whether or not this is all going to come together. So they're definitely going to be one of those big teams to watch in the NBA, at least I believe at this point.
Yeah, for me personally, just for completely selfish reasons, I'm just really excited. I live on the East Coast. I live in Orlando. And I'm just excited that they should be super fun to watch because there's been too many of those 10:30 p.m. games my time that are just like, oh, great, who's killing the Lakers tonight, the last couple of years. And it's just like, I can't do it anymore. It was just killing me because, you're staying up till 1 o'clock in the morning, especially they get so many of those Thursday night TNT games. It's like, well, right, yeah. It's not the Warriors, so it's going to be the Lakers. And now I'm actually looking forward to those. I'm like, as much as with any team, I don't care if they win or lose. Just give me entertaining basketball where I can learn something and enjoy it. And I think they're going to be a lot of fun. And I do think they're going to play really, really hard because there's no reason not to. There's no incentive to tank for this group, as I know you're well aware. So I think that they're going to be a lot of fun. And I also think they've got some guys in Ball and Ingram and Caldwell Pope and Lopez and even, I know he's not going to play, but Deng will be there, that those guys aren't wired to not play hard. So I think it's going to be, get out there and do what you can to win games. And that should make it a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, definitely. We can finally say, at least for this season anyway, that the tank is dead.
Yeah.
And that's a positive thing for Lakers fans who have endured the past few seasons. Well, Keith, I think we've covered quite a bit here tonight. Obviously, we've gone over pretty much all the different ins and outs of the Lakers cap situation, and they're definitely going to be that team to keep an eye on. So, hey, thank you so much for coming on here and help us make sense of what can be a really complicated endeavor in figuring out the cap situation for the Los Angeles Lakers.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. One thing I'll leave all your fans with and your listeners with is don't trust it when you hear teams have max cap space. Make sure you do a little bit of research. It's not that hard to look up. There's enough people writing on it. And you have one of the best cap guys in the world who covers the team directly in Eric Pincus. So you can definitely get, he's going to be more tied into it in tune. If you ever have questions, look me up on, social media or wherever you can find me, and I'm happy to answer it. So just, it's very easy and sloppy to say, can they get there? Sure. But a lot of teams can do that every summer. It's a question of how hard is it to get there. And I think after our long conversation here tonight, it's not very easy. There's going to be some tough decisions to make.
Absolutely, yeah. It's gonna be a little bit tricky.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you do have questions about the cap situation, you can find Keith on Twitter at KeithSmithNBA. Great resource for anybody that has curiosities about the Lakers cap situation. That is going to wrap things up for us today. Again, my guest today was Keith Smith of Real GM. Did a great job of breaking everything down. As always, you can find this show on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, the CLNS Media app, and of course, LakersNation.com, where we try to be a one-stop shop for all things Lakers. Take a moment, head over to iTunes, make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to this show. We would certainly appreciate it. Next time, we will be back. I am planning on having Josh Eberly on to Hoop Mag to talk a bit more about Lakers basketball and the NBA at large. That'll be coming up next week. Don't forget, if you want to listen to it, Audible has it with an unmatched selection of audiobooks, original audio shows, news, comedy, and more. You'll find what you're looking for. Get a free audiobook with a 30-day trial today by signing up at audible.com/LakersNation. Thanks, everybody, for listening. My name is Trevor Lane, and this has been the Lakers Nation Podcast.